Howdy and welcome, y'all. This is the weekly wrap-up for May 21st, 2021. I am Raymond Dahlman, and I hope everyone had a fantastic week. Pretty pleasant here in the great state of Colorado. It's in the 70s today, which is kind of nice, and I think it's the first week we haven't had any snow. A little bit of rain, which we could probably do without. We've had, I think, more precipitation so far this year than we had all of last year. So anyways, so like I said, I hope everyone had a great week. I've been suffering with allergies. I was like, looked like Rocky Balboa the other day. I was rubbing my eyes really hard and could hardly see out of them. So I've been trying to, withhold the temptation to touch my eyes. So anyways, all right, well, let's go ahead and dive into the news of the week. This is a newsletter I've started receiving. It kind of hits the highlights of what's going on in the world. So Israel and Hamas have reached a ceasefire. I guess that's good news. Like I said early in the week, I don't know if there's really any good guys on either side. Actually, I have a podcast I'm going to share with you at the end of this update, so that you can, if you want to listen to it, it's about an hour and a half long, but gives you kind of the backstory on the Israelis and the Palestinians, and how all this started. So if you want some background on this long war or conflict, whatever you want to call it, give that a listen. So all right, Biden praises ceasefires, says he's going to help the Palestinians rebuild. Well, that's very benevolent of him to do with our money. So next, House approves bill seeking $1.9 billion for Capitol security. I guess this stems from the insurrection, or as I like to call it, trespassing. It is funny to see one half of the country lose their shit over this, and the rest of us are like, eh. I mean, come on. Portland, Seattle, those leftist cities were burned for a good portion of last year. What was it? The city in Wisconsin, not Kenosha, wherever that kid shot those people. So anyways, let's see. DOJ obtained phone records of a CNN journalist during the Trump era. From CNN Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr, CNN reported, and Justice Department confirmed Thursday night. The Justice Department informed Starr in a May 13th letter that it obtained her records from 2017, early in the Trump administration. The revelation followed a May 3rd letter to the Washington Post that they'd obtained her records in an apparent attempt to find their sources on Russian election interference. Okay, well, it's been 4 years. I really, again, as a libertarian, I'm more troubled by not checking the IDs when people vote than some Russian posts on Facebook, which I don't think really amounted to very much. So, but, let's see where this goes. Treasury unveils plan to raise $700 billion by closing the tax gap. I know they're hiring a lot of additional IRS agents to try and go get the money they think they deserve. I think people should just stop paying their taxes. That's the fastest way to kill this republic. But I don't know if I have enough people who are willing to go along with me on that. Jobless claims fall to a pandemic-era low of 444,000. I'll go over those numbers in a little bit, so that's certainly some positive news. Let's see. Equipment handled by Arizona audit contractor should be replaced. So I think this is due to, the Maricopa County officials says that they should replace millions of dollars worth of voting machines handled by the contractor auditing the 2020 election due to grave concerns regarding security and integrity. Well, isn't that the point of the audit? Anyways, I'll be curious to see what happens with this. I know the media has put a full court press on trying to make this look bad, but me as a third-party person, I'm curious to see how much chicanery was going on there. So we'll see what the actual verdict is, or at least their findings, hopefully soon. I know they're in, I think it's Fulton County in Georgia. There's a gentleman that I've been paying attention to. His name's Garland Favorito. I think he's an attorney over in Georgia, and he's been working diligently on some audits of some of the counties in the Georgia area. So again, I'm curious to see what happens with all of this. Was there any fraud? I'll be curious to see how that turns out. So let's see, the 8th story here. NOAA predicts busier than normal Atlantic hurricane season. I guess that sucks if you live along the Gulf Coast. But growing up in Texas, hurricanes are just part of life. And all the years I lived in, the 10 years I lived in Florida, I don't think we ever had one actually hit the coast there in Jacksonville. Had a couple close calls, but nothing ever came directly across the city. So so I guess that's if you live along the East Coast or along the Gulf Coast, you might want to get your hurricane supplies early, especially with a lot of the supply chain disruptions. Food's getting more expensive, so maybe time to go ahead and prepare a little early. Chris Cuomo apologizes due to his brother's scandal. I'm not going to get into that. BBC apologizes over Princess Diana. That's not important for us either. So, all right. So that's the news in the world. Let's take a look at the stock market this week. This is the Dow Jones. Looks like it was fairly flat for the week. Looks like the Dow Jones was up. That's not right. That's not right. There we go. Looks like it was down about 0.46. Let's take a look at the S&P 500. This chart's not working. Let me drag this over. All right, the S&P 500 down about 0.48. NASDAQ looks like it finished slightly up for the week. 0.28. Dow Utilities, that looks like basically flat for the week. And then the Dow Transports, looks like that's probably the worst of these indexes, down about 2.69%. So for the week, the Dow and the S&P 500, kind of flat. It was kind of ugly in the middle of the week, but it looks like things have kind of stabilized. Gold for the week, looks like it was up. Looks like 1.96%. Silver, looks like silver didn't do quite as well. Up 0.43. And Bitcoin, it's had an ugly week this week. All the cryptos, looks like people have been moving money out of there, down about 20%. So not the best week for cryptos, kind of a so-so week for the market, and it looks like precious metals did certainly a lot better. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and look at the job numbers this week. Like I mentioned earlier, the jobless claims came in at 444,000, under the forecast of 450,000. So not too bad there. Let's look at last week's numbers. They were revised up to 478,000. So just up a smidge, still under the 490 estimate. Continuing jobless claims came in over forecast at 3,751,000. Let's look at the previous week. It was revised down a little bit, down to 3.64 million. So again, some positive news. I mean, if we look back here, going back a couple months, we've gone from basically around 5 million down to about 3.75. 3.6. So the continuing jobless claims do appear to be shrinking, which is good. More and more people are going back to their jobs, or they've gone out and found other work in maybe a different field. So certainly good news there. All right, well, let's go ahead, and this is from Pete Quinones, his podcast, Free Man Beyond the Wall. This is episode 580, Truth and Lies About the Israel-Palestine Conflict with Ryan Dawson. Mr. Dawson lives, I believe, in Japan. I've heard him on a number of podcasts over the years. Seems to really know his stuff when it comes to Palestine. He knows quite a bit about the Civil War. So let's go ahead and take a minute and listen to part of the conversation, and then I'll go ahead and wrap up.
So 1948 happens, and why don't you give a little background of
Yeah, I mean, they
what that's all?
confiscated guns from Palestinians, but not Jews. And then they're coming, almost all of them are out of Poland, Hungary, or some European state. And I mean, they don't even speak Hebrew or Yiddish, or they're just Polish or Russian or whatever. And they're,
White Europeans.
yeah, Ashkenazis, they call them whatever, but they're white people. They have blue eyes and the whatever they make up these. See, when we say race, by the way, there's the colloquial version of race. So we'd be like blacks, whites, Arabs, Asians, Indians, and da da da. Now, if you're going to say geographically, like, well, Indians and Pakistanis are Asian, Egyptians are African, if you do it by geography. And if you do it by the more technical scientific thing, then there's only 4 races, maybe 5. And Arabs and Persians and Caucasians would all be considered Caucasoid. But when they say race, it's mainly like political. So that would be Arab, Persian, black, white, and sometimes they divide the whites up and so on. So people use those terms. What they really mean is phenotype, but they don't say that. They say race. But in their own mind, I'm using their terms. The only people that think of Jews as a race are Zionists and Nazis. To everyone else, it's a religion and an ethnic group. And an ethnic group can be different races because it's a cultural glue that ties it together, or a religion that ties it together, whatever. Like Brazilians or something. That's a nationality as well as ethnic group. And I don't want to get into the weeds and all that, but it was Europeans with European languages and European cultures and customs that went to Palestine and colonized it. And Palestine was both Christian and Muslim predominantly, and there was a little minority of Jews that had just been there the whole time. The diaspora starts coming from everywhere, out of Europe and also out of Yemen and Egypt, because the Jewish supremacist terrorists started conducting false flag terrorist operations on fellow Jews to force them to leave where they lived to come seek refuge in Israel, and got caught doing that over and over again. I made a film called How.
All right, I'll go ahead and stop there. So it's definitely an interesting listen. Pete, who is the podcast host, I really enjoy listening to a lot of his stuff. He is a fellow libertarian. I think he sides a lot with agorism, which I'm also a big fan of. So, like I said, give it a listen. Really goes deep down into the history of this conflict, and like I said, there aren't really no good guys in this situation. It is unfortunate, being someone who's, a bit of a pacifist. I don't, really believe in war, violence. Not that I'm opposed to using violence if someone is threatening me, but it's usually the last thing that I want to go to. So, but like I said, give it a listen. It's got some good information there, and so that basically wraps up everything I had for this week. Kind of a wild week in the markets, but it does look like things are stabilizing a little bit. We do have some good news. It looks like the jobs numbers do continue to get better, and the more people that get back to work, the more people that get back to their lives. I think the better. I know in a lot of the big cities, people are still terrified of this. The whole COVID thing. You know what? My best advice is get your health in check. Get outside, live your life. And, you can't worry about catching a cold and dying. So at least, it's not anything I strongly worry about. So, all right. Well, that's everything I had for everyone today. I'll be back on Monday with the weekly update and probably some white papers. And there's a turkey crossing my driveway right now. So, unfortunately, or I guess the good news is it's not my in-laws. So, anyways. All right. Everyone have a fantastic weekend. And like I said, I'll have another video out on Monday. Bye-bye.